Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I hope you guys had a good lunch. Uh, so we were on the topic of factors that influence the bioavailability. So there are pharmaceutical factors and there are uh, which factors? The pharmacodynamic, yeah, pharmacological factors. So there are pharmaceutical factors and there are pharmacological factors which influence या फिर affect the bioavailability of a drug. So in that we were looking into the pharmaceutical factors, of which we have already talked about the particle size of the drug, how it can affect. So mine less is the particle size, higher will be the absorption. That is what the funda is. Salt form, obviously, if a drug is in the salt form, it is more absorbed. It can get more dissolved, okay, which can increase the bioavailability certainly. Uh, then crystal forms, the rate of absorption of bioavailability of a drug also depends on its crystalline form. This is because amorphous forms dissolve faster compared to the crystalline form of the same drug. So a drug can exist in both the forms, either in amorphous form or the crystalline form. If you want to make it more absorbable, then you will have to convert that crystalline drug into the amorphous form. So that is how it is. But it's not always the case. Sometimes we use the crystalline form as well in order to dissolve. Just give me 1 minute, okay?
Hello, ma'am. Mic is
Hi.
off.
Oh God. Okay, no problem. So I was talking about the crystalline form. So it is not always the case that you need the formulation to be in amorphous form, because crystalline forms are the most pure form of the drug that you can get. So in that case, you will have to make sure that you develop a formulation in such a way that that crystalline form can get absorbed into the blood circulation as soon as possible. Means it should get dissolved at a faster rate as that of same as that of the amorphous form of the drug. So next is water hydration. So many drugs incorporate water to produce crystalline form called as hydrates. Okay. So if water molecules are already present in the crystal structure, the tendency of crystal to attract the additional water to initiate dissolution process is reduced and compared to the anhydrous form. So water hydration is another process which we'll have to look into in order when we are considering about the bioavailability. So water hydration should not can should be there, so that water hydration is good because that can initiate the dissolution of the drug at a faster rate. Means like once it start the dissolution of the drug has started, the more the drug will be available into the systemic circulation, the faster it will be available into the systemic circulation. So after disintegration we concentrate on the dissolution and then absorption of the drug into the bloodstream. So water hydration can also help in making sure that the drug is getting bioavailable as soon as possible. Then nature of excipients and adjuvants, very important, because the type of excipient, the type of adjuvants we are going to use are going to make sure that the absorption of drug is not getting hampered. So because most of the time binders and adjuvants are generally used to mask the taste of the drug. If the drug's taste is, yeah, smell of the drug is very bad, so generally in order to add the volume to the drug, or in order to mask the taste, bad odor or something like that, we add adjuvants and the binders to the formulation. But we have to make sure that they are not coming in between the bioavailability of the drug. Okay. So these pharmacologically inert substances, for example, starch, lactose, calcium sulfate, gum, which are added as filling material or as binding agents, all to obtain the proper granular size, have tremendous effect on bioavailability of the drug. Okay, so some of these excipients are wetting agents, which enhance the solvent penetration and ensures the faster dissolution and in turn the absorption, right? So some of the binding agents are helping also. They are going to help in the bioavailability process. Okay, by doing they are called as wetting agent, by enhancing the solvent penetration, and by doing that they are achieving we are achieving faster dissolution and faster absorption of the drug. We should be particularly careful in drugs which follows zero order or mixed order kinetics or have a low margin of safety. Low margin of safety, that means low therapeutic range. Okay, so we should be careful in that area, what kind of adjuvants and what kind of excipients we are using. Okay, so that is what it is. Then degree of ionization, we all know it is related to the pH of the drug. So non-ionized lipid-soluble drugs are better absorbed, increasing their bioavailability compared to the strongly acidic or strongly basic drugs or highly ionized drugs. So basically, whenever we have a drug, we either choose a weak acidic or a weak basic drug. So which will have more dissolution capacity and more absorption capacity. Okay, so these are the factors which are listed under the pharmaceutical factor. First is particle size, salt form, crystal form of the drug, water hydration, nature of the excipients and adjuvants, and the degree of ionization. Okay, then pharmacological factors. So they will involve all this process of drug by taking the oral medication, then it reaching to the system. जो ये पूरा जो pathway है, during all this pathway, whatever is going to happen with the drug will be known as the pharmacological factor. Okay, of which we knew few of the pharmacological factors. For example, first pass metabolism. I guess you guys we have learned in this first pass metabolism in second semester. So what are the pharmacological? So journey of a drug from mouth to the systemic circulation. So ये इतना बड़ा journey पार करने के लिए there are going to be lot many hurdles in between, right? So whatever that is going to come in between the absorption of the drug into the systemic circulation will be counted as the pharmacological factor, because this is not concerning to the drug. This is concerning to the physiological status of the body. Okay. So pharmacological factors include gastric emptying and gastrointestinal motility. So factors that accelerate the gastric emptying increases the bioavailability. So higher the rate of gastric emptying, better it will. Means in the sense that whatever you will eat, faster it will be absorbed into the blood circulation, and your stomach will be empty faster. So this is because the drug is exposed to the larger surface area of the small intestine. Somebody's mic is on. Just a minute, let me mute all. Okay. So this is because drug is exposed. So intestine has the stomach has the biggest, largest surface area where drug can get absorbed at a faster rate. So if you have, if a person has a faster gastric emptying capacity or gastrointestinal mobility is better, yeah, feel faster, it will have, they can experience the increased bioavailability. So this particular factor will differ from person to person, right? So gastrointestinal disease. So there are many gastrointestinal diseases which have an effect on drug absorption. The outcome of colic disease is complex. It increases the absorption of cephalexin, whereas reduces that of the amoxicillin. So it will have different effect. A different drug can experience different kind of absorption effect depending on the what kind of gastrointestinal disease a person has. So in some cases it can increase the bioavailability, in some cases it can reduce the bioavailability. So in case of Crohn's disease, there is disappropriate disproportionate absorption of individual components of the clotrimazole, increases the absorption of sulfamethoxazole, decreases that of the trimethoprim. So this is just one example, two examples they have given. In case of colic disease, what happens to one drug and what happens to another drug. And in case of Crohn's disease, what happens to one drug and what happens to another drug. So it depends on the type of disease a person has, gastrointestinal disease a person has. It can either enhance the bioavailability of the drug or it can reduce the bioavailability of the drug. Then food and other substances. So we all know that food can interfere with the bioavailability of the drug. So in general, gastrointestinal absorption rate is reduced after ingestion of the food, although it has no effect on the extent of absorption. So both rate and extent of absorption of certain antibiotics like rifamycin is reduced after meals. Okay, so this is one example that they have given, and that's the reason most of the time the bioavailability and bioequivalence studies in clinical trials. Okay, means when you have only BA/BE trials, that time we do both the studies, the fasting study and the fed study, so that we come to know that if there is any effect of the food on the drug absorption. Okay, so uh, the food does have some effect on the absorption of the drug. And what is that effect? You have to calculate also that effect, that how much of the drug will be, how much of the time will be increased for the absorption of the drug if the drug is taken with the meal or without the meal. That has to be calculated. But in many cases, the drugs which cause this stomach upset problem, or acidity problem, those drugs are asked to be taken with food, because if they are going to hamper your gastric flora, the stomach flora that you have, then definitely they are prescribed after meal. Okay, and most of the time, people like us, we do take medications only after we have food. So it becomes ultimately important for the pharmaceutical companies to do the evaluation for the fed study as well. In the sense, you will be feeding the subjects and then giving them the tablet to understand what is the effect of the food on the absorption of the drug. Okay. Then there's furthermore to the food and the drug. So absorption of tetracycline is reduced if taken with the milk. This is a very common example because it forms a complex with the calcium. Tetracycline forms a complex with the calcium. Vitamin C increases absorption of iron because it keeps in its ferrous form. So vitamin C and iron goes well hand in hand. Okay. Then next factor in pharmacological distinct factors that affect the bioavailability is first pass metabolism. We all know about first pass metabolism. We have studied in our second semester. So it means the drug degradation occurs, reducing its bioavailability when it passes through GIT wall and then through portal system before it reaches the systemic circulation. So first pass metabolism is commonly faced by all the oral formulations that we take. Okay, so they have to sustain that first pass metabolism in order to make sure that they are evenly distributed into the systemic circulation. Then drug-drug interaction, right? So drug-drug interaction can also cause difference in bioavailability because some clinical trials are like that also, where you will be doing two drugs trials at the same time. So you'll be checking the drug-drug interaction also, and you will be saving on the time also, because you're doing both the drugs analysis at the same time, and you don't even need double the amount of subjects to conduct the two drugs clinical trials. That is what we had discussed in the past lectures, if you guys remember. So drug-drug interaction is another very important point, because it can cause differences in the bioavailability. And liquid paraffin decreases the bioavailability of the fat soluble vitamin as it emulsifies the fat. Okay? So if you give this medications together, then you can see that vitamin will not be available into the systemic circulation, at whatever dose they are supposed to be available, right? Antacids reduces the bioavailability of tetracycline because it forms chelated complex. So there are drug-drug interactions that we have to take care of. Okay, so the calcium and the tetracycline was a food drug interaction. Okay, and antacids are what? So antacids are those who reduces the acidity. Okay, those medications who reduces the acidity or gastric burn. So pharmacogenetic factors, large difference in bioavailability often occurs among humans due to pharmacogenetic reasons. Slow and fast acetylators shows increased and decreased bioavailability of the isoniazide respectively. So pharmacogenetic factor in the sense, genetically, some people can get affected by a drug at it's like in a different manner. See, for example, if I take cetirizine one tablet, I might not feel that sleepy. I might feel sleepy, but I will definitely not feel very sleepy or something like that. I can sustain. But some people, if after taking any kind of medication, they have to sleep, they feel sleepy. So that is their genetic profile of the body. That is how they are made. That is how their body make is, and that also will affect the bioavailability of the drug, like what is your genetic, or like what is your genetic makeup, and how it is making sure that all the process of the drug intake is taken care by your body. Okay, so some people have a very slow body system, some people have a faster body system. So it is all related to your genes, because when we talk about genes, it's DNA, RNA, ultimately protein. Okay, and the protein is the one main product which is required for you to show some effects, do some biochemical, all the biochemical reactions that are taking place in the body. So very important, your genetic pharmacogenetic factors are very important when it comes to the bioavailability. Okay, then miscellaneous factors, area of absorptive surface, state of circulation at the site of absorption, that is shock, whereas the tissue perfusion decreases. So state of circulation, that means blood circulation at the site of absorption. Okay, sometimes we have headache and we just say that the blood circulation come ho gaya hai head mein, iske liye we are having a headache. So we, if we do Shirsasana or something like that, we might get relief of headache or something like that. That's what they say. I never tried it, but yeah, the at the site of action, how much is the blood because if my drug is into the blood circulation, but where it is supposed to act, if that is not accessible by my blood, then what is the use of it? If there is not enough circulation where the drug has to come and do its action, perform its action, but that particular site is inhibited because of due to some reason for the blood to come in and show its effect, then definitely that is going to affect the bioavailability, and you might not get relief from the pain, या फिर whatever thing you're trying to target with your drug. Then route of administration also plays a major role in the bioavailability. For example, intravenous is 100 by definition. Okay, 1 is the absolute bioavailability. Intramuscular injections 75 to 100 or greater than 75. Then subcutaneous 70, same as that of intramuscular. Then oral 5 to 100%. Rectal 30 to 100. Inhalation 5 to 100 and transdermal 80 to 100. So that is what it is. So it will all depend on what is the area, how much is the area. So in stomach, they have lots of area to for absorption because our stomach intestinal wall has lots of microvilli. So like that. So where the area, how much of the area the drug is getting to get absorbed. Then state of circulation at the site of action and route of administration. So these three are also very important factors when it comes to the bioavailability of the drug. So this was it, and the factors that affect the bioavailability or influence the bioavailability. So major two factors: pharmaceutical and pharmacological, and there are subtopics underneath that. So are there any questions in this? If there are any, we can take. Otherwise, we can move to the next topic. Okay. So,
Hello, ma'am.
yes, yes. Yes,
Ma'am,
Pratibha.
can you please explain the urinary excretion data? जो आपने कल
Urinary
explain
excretion?
किया?
Yes, of course I can. Just give me 1 minute, okay? Just give me 1 minute. Yes. So urinary excretion data is basically will be telling, see how they will be doing is they will be taking the urine sample, okay, and they will be doing the analysis of the urine. So how much of the drug has come into the urine? For example, I have given 100% of the drug, administered 100% of the drug. That is what we will think. And then in the urine, after I have administered the drug, in the urine I have got 20% of the drug. Then how much of the drug is there in my body? 80%, right? So that is how they calculate the drug that is available in the systemic circulation by urine data. So when the drug will be 50% in the urine, that means 50% of the drug is in the body. Understood? So that is how in plasma, if what we are doing, we are taking the blood samples and we are just analyzing how much of the drug is there in the blood circulation exactly. It's not eliminated out of the body. So elimination is different and the drug that is present inside the blood is different. So when I have 20% of the drug that is eliminated through urine, that means it has passed everything, A, D, M, E, and then it has come to the stage of elimination. Means it is in the stage of E, that is elimination. That means if I have 20% of the drug in the urine, that means 80% of the drug is still there in the body. Yes or no? You got it, Pratibha? That is what it means.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. So next is bioequivalence that we have to talk about. Okay. So bioequivalence. So I hope bioavailability is pretty much clear. See, these topics are very theoretical. There is no much of a there is logic obviously, but there are concepts. So you have to learn these concepts no matter what. So there is no imagination or no your thinking you cannot put into it. So there are some defined concepts on which you can work and innovate something out of your mind. Then bioequivalence means pharmaceutical equivalent or pharmaceutical alternatives whose rate and extent of absorption do not show a significant difference when administered at the same molar dose of the therapeutic moiety under similar experimental conditions. Okay. So I have explained this definition many a times to you people. So is it clear in your mind now? What do you exactly mean by bioequivalence? Yes or no? You have to tell me in the chat. Do you guys understand? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. You want to understand what is bioequivalence? Shall I tell it again? Yes, Suraj, have you understood? Suraj, Have you got it? What do you mean by bioequivalence? So, yes. So, bioequivalence is nothing but you have two similar products, maybe from a different brand, okay? And then they have to be equivalent in their rate and extent of absorption, okay? And they have to be same moiety, and then the experimental conditions have to be same. Okay. So most of the time when I'm telling you that the companies are performing DAB trial, they are trying to do what? They are trying to make sure that their drug is bioequivalent to the drug which is available in the market already. Okay. And it is compulsory for companies to do so. Why? Because before you release that drug into the market under your brand, you have to show that equivalent data to the IEC communities. And once they see it, once they approve it, then only you can go ahead and market that drug under your brand name into the market. Okay. So bioequivalence is very important and it's very ongoing in India, because in India we do have one drug under different brand names. ठीक है. So आप कौन से ब्रांड का ड्रग खाने वाले हो आपके ऊपर है, या फिर आपके डॉक्टर कौन सा ड्रग प्रिस्क्राइब करेंगे वो उनके ऊपर है. But then even if it's the same drug, sometimes we go to the market and हम लोग बोलते हैं कि अरे पैरासिटामोल ग्लेनमार्क का डॉक्टर ने बोला लेकिन है नहीं. So then medical shop वाला will tell you कि नहीं ग्लेनमार्क का नहीं है लेकिन सिप्ला का है, सेम टू सेम, आप वही खा लो. But at the same time both the drugs are available. So those both drugs, if you think, they are bioequivalent to each other. That's the reason the medical जो medicine shop वाला है वो तुम्हें बोल रहा है कि you can take this drug, it's just a different brand. Why? Because they are bioequivalent to each other, and that is what they have proven. That is what they have proven into the to the regulatory authorities, and hence they have the same drug, same effect of the drug, and same concentration of the drug. Only the brand name is different. Okay. So bioequivalence studies are usually performed to compare the rate and extent of absorption of a new drug product or a generic equivalent with that of a recognized standard. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. Then, so that is what just I explained right now. So evaluation and design of a single dose bioequivalence study. So dosage forms that are to be evaluated only for bioequivalence purpose. So single dose, only single dose. Okay. Single dose, double dose means in the sense single dose in a day I will be taking that medication only once. Okay, that is single dose. Okay, then it depends like how many times the drug has to be administered to a person in a deceased person. So twice a day rehta hai, thrice a day rehta hai, that is repetitive dosing. Okay, so dosage form meant for single dose administration for a therapeutic benefit should such as analgesic for relief of headache. So that is a very simple one. Diclofenac, अगर कभी headache हुआ तो हम लोग diclofenac एक tablet लेने के बाद we get relieved of the headache. We do not again take diclofenac to make means we do not need it in the repetitive dosing, right? Because one tablet of diclofenac can relieve your headache. It's an analgesic tablet. Okay, so evaluation and design of the single dose continuing. So dose concentration in mg and time. So it's this test you see over here. Test is your and the reference brand. So both of them are having the curves almost at the same means they're all the points are falling on each other. Okay, so there is almost no difference between the area under the curve for the test and the reference. Okay, so the test drug could be your drug and reference is either from the brand or from the market you have picked up from. Okay, so that is what it is for the single dose. So determination of bioavailability and bioequivalence in multiple dose regime. So dosage form designed to achieve a special release profile. For example, time release product, enteric coated preparation. So basically these are specialized formulations which are made which are made in such a way that they can be there in the body for a longer time and slowly keep on releasing the drug, so that it will have the extended effect of the drug on the body. Okay. Enteric coated drugs preparation, I hope we have learned about this. So those are the ones which will not get affected by the acidity of the stomach. Okay. So for multiple dose drugs undergoing first pass metabolism, special dosage regimes such as loading dose, etc. So for that also bioequivalence and bioavailability studies are little different, and how they are, we'll see. So the two dosage forms are bioequivalent if we see this, and two dosage forms are not bioequivalent. So two dosage forms are bioequivalent if we have, so see over here, one is colored and one is not colored, non-colored triangle. So if they fall on each other, the area under curve always has to be similar than that of the test and the reference. But over here you see the two dosage forms are not bioequivalent. Okay. So that makes a major difference. So whether be it a multiple dose regime or whether be it a single dose regime, your ultimate goal is to check that the area under the curve falls same as that of the reference drug. Okay. So that is what is important. So we have less than 1 minute remaining. If there are any doubts, you can WhatsApp me or we can talk in the next session. Okay. So we are almost done with the bioavailability part, but we are left with the bioequivalence. So we will talk about we'll further talk about it in the next lecture. Okay. If there are any doubts, just keep it to yourself, or you can WhatsApp me if you are reading at home, and we can sort it out. Okay. I'll see you guys tomorrow then. Take care. And obviously Saturday will be holiday because of the 15th of August. Okay. See you all. Take care.